Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco. Guess what? We're doing another movie today. And not just any movie, a full moon movie. Meaning this is Halloween month. It's also moving out of our house month.
This is the third movie out of 10 full moon movies that we will be reviewing. I think that this is just a much better way, instead of shoving them all into one video, just do each one at a time, because I really wish that I would have dedicated more time to talking about some of the ones that I did, like in the first full moon year, like the Killjoy movies especially. So we're here to review Intruder, 1989.
And make sure if you want to watch this movie, it's on Tubi.
Yeah, all these movies are on Tubi. That's part of what makes it fun, is that Tubi has like almost the full moon catalog. And so it's like, why not take advantage of that and have fun?
But if you want to watch this particular movie, make sure that you know that the full moon, movie production did this movie, because there's two other movies that have very similar titles. So you have to kind of look at each one, make sure you have the right one. So it's a slasher movie. I don't think the other two, but still, the word intruder kind of sparks, something negative or scary or whatever. So make sure that you pay attention. It's full moon, movie.
No, you just look up Intruder. Like, it's that simple. Anyway.
Not really.
Yeah, it is, Safi. This is not... okay.
Never mind.
Just put a disclaimer, like, that's the guide for boomers. That's the boomer guide for how to watch Intruder. Most of our audience aren't boomers, so we don't have to worry about that. This movie is, I would say, it's hard to say if this is the best one or not, because I kind of like to watch Vampire Journals again over this movie, because this movie is a little longer, and I don't think that that's necessarily a problem, because as always, I always complain about these people who want to shorten everything and say that, we overstay the welcome, blah, 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 blah.
God.
The most pathetic, lazy-ass excuse I've ever heard for why your show or movie is bad. But the thing is that this movie has a very slow start to me. It is just like building atmosphere, building character. But I think it could have gone a little bit faster at the beginning, because they kept on like showing these POV shots, first-person POV shots that, they weren't really scary, because it's like, okay, I guess there's a bad guy around somewhere. Like, it really wasn't scary. The reason why Halloween was scary is because you saw Michael Myers' face, the Michael Myers mask, and you saw, even as a kid, you saw the little child's hand, which is a lot scarier than just seeing like a random adult POV, because it could be anyone, especially in a horror movie. It could be like a fake out, because they did that in this movie, where they have someone you think is the killer, and then it's obviously not. And I figured out who the killer was like less than halfway through.
Well, I didn't figure it out. What I did was, I thought it was too easy. What happened was the main person had her boyfriend came back, and he was mad because she hadn't contacted him in a while.
He was really creepy.
He was creepy, but he was also kind of very short-tempered and violent.
Yeah.
And so he was just too obvious a suspect. I just thought it's him. It has to be him, because he's the only one that showed himself. And I was thinking Intruder, it could have been him, because they hadn't seen each other in a while. But then I thought it has to be somebody else. But I was thinking it was somebody who had staked out the place over weeks, and
I'll tell you why.
And well, it makes sense who it was. It's just somebody who went insane after hearing
Safi,
something.
don't explain it.
I'm not going to explain. I'm just going to.
You're trying to explain it. You're
I'm not.
You're trying to.
I'm not. But
Trying
anyway.
to explain things is just as bad as explaining things.
Oh,
Safi.
okay. Well, whatever. It was just too easy for this ex-boyfriend to be the guy.
It was really fun to see the people working at the store in the 80s.
And they were all friends.
It really
put
like a
family.
And it really put you there. It made you feel like it was real. And so I thought that was really cool because they could have just gone very one-dimensional like they would do nowadays and just go straight to the killing. But instead they really took the time, and I know I complained about it being too long at the beginning, but I'm talking about like the boyfriend stuff, and because they sort of like made it look like he was going to be the main villain, and you had no choice other than to believe that. And they went on a little long with that stuff. But they were trying different things, techniques to set up things. Like, I loved all the different rooms. It had a very good atmosphere.
It was a big store.
This was definitely the most horror movie that we've reviewed so far for Full Moon, out of like Vampire Journals, because this had a bigger production value, at least we think. And it was funny though, because the movie starts off with the Full Moon logo, and then immediately after that, the first thing that we saw was a full moon.
And it was a full moon in reality here too.
That was funny.
It was cool.
Yeah.
What I thought was funny, because this was 1989, and in the United States, there were a few people had cell phones. They were huge, humongous instruments. People, they weren't little and compact and easy to use like they are now. Even if it's like a little burner phone, even if a flip phone is easier to use than what they started out with. We went to Europe at that time. And on our way to Africa, and of course the Europeans were already using cell phones that were small. So, but anyway, in the store, because it was 1989 when they put out the movie, and so it was probably 1988 when they, were actually working on the movie. The girl had to, she was calling the police because the boyfriend was causing a problem and for everybody and being disruptive, and like I said, he was made to be the suspect.
Safi.
Anyway, the girl was using a rotary phone, and I could tell she's never used it before. She was having such problems. I don't know why. It was so easy to use, but anyway.
Safi, that was a choice of acting to show that she's in terror.
She wasn't. She was laughing.
Really?
And what's that?
I don't know. Go get your package, Safi.
No, I'm not going to get that. I don't know what it is. I didn't order anything.
Maybe it's I don't know.
Probably something for Robert, but I mean, what
Safi, don't talk about that.
I don't know.
Anyways, I really think that this movie, in short, to summarize it like completely, it's like Friday the 13th in a grocery store. And you could tell that out of all the horror movies, they really wanted to emulate Friday the 13th. Especially when it got to the ending, because the ending was almost straight up like Friday the 13th, where the main girl, Alice, finds Jason's mother, Pamela, and then she's like, I'm going to help you. I'm going to call for help. Let's go to that cabin over there. Jason, he was a very nice boy. And these counselors, they were having sex and not watching Jason. And Jason drowned, all because of them. And by the way, I'm the killer. That's what happens in this movie almost exactly, where she thinks that her boyfriend, the main girl, the final girl, because this movie does have a final girl, and I actually thought she was really good. I thought, she's one of the better final girls. Like, she's a lot more likable than shitty-ass Laurie Strode. Safi, don't you agree?
Well, yeah. She's
I mean,
not screaming all
yeah,
the time.
she's not like throwing away her weapons, and she's not completely useless while Dr. Loomis just comes in and kicks ass. You know, she's very, very competent, and
Well, she's trying to survive. It's
Yeah.
like she actually thinks on her feet very fast. It was just funny, though. First, she wasn't really adept at using the phone, and the other thing was they showed her probably doing every task
Right.
a person in a grocery store would do overnight, cleaning and everything, and while everybody was getting knocked off.
Yeah. Well, that
And
was
she had no idea because the place was rather big. So, and they had, like Marco said, they had all these rooms, and the rooms were, there were doors, and you couldn't. When the doors closed, I guess you just couldn't hear what was going on in them.
that was that was one of the funnier aspects. You know, this movie was pretty funny too. It was funny. It was scary a little bit. It had great music, and it had some great atmosphere. But there was this one really funny part where this guy who kind of liked her at the store, he was like, I would say he was my least favorite character because I was just so much expecting for him and her to survive, and then they get together, and they hug at the end, and it's
I was wondering about that myself, but
thank God.
No.
He goes up to the attic to try to find help, to try to find another guy who might be hiding, and it's really hilarious because the owner of the store, he had gotten like his eye stabbed out, and it's funny because I've talked and complained many times in these shitty-ass, low-budget horror movies, people will just get killed by a stab in the eye, and that's it. That's all it takes to kill someone, apparently. And especially like Ooga Booga, they did they did that over and over again. An eye gets stabbed out because it's an easy effect, and then it's done. And, well, this guy, he gets his eye stabbed out, but he's still alive. And he made his way up to the attic, and he's, like, covered in blood. And the guy who likes the final girl, he goes up there, and he sees that guy, and he gets really scared. And the guy's like, help me! Help me! And the guy's like, ah! Like, it's so hilarious, because, like, he doesn't give him any help at all. He, like, treats him like a Halloween decoration, because they did have Halloween stuff up there and Christmas stuff. And then he comes back down, and he doesn't help him a second time. And so the owner of the store, he's just, like, bleeding out, and, like, nobody helps him. It's pretty hilarious. Did you notice that, Safi?
Yeah,
Wasn't that weird?
I was kind of sad that just about everybody in the movie got killed. And
Yeah.
I was wondering if anybody was going to be left alive.
Yeah.
There was just several things, like, because of what they were doing, it looked like this, it looked like that. I mean, it looked like a specific thing, but it was pretty bad. There were a lot of kills.
The kills were really, really good. Some of the effects were really gross, actually, to where it was hard to watch. Like, there was this one where he took I think it was like a meat slicer, and he sliced open his head in half.
Yeah, I saw that.
Above, like, his jaw. That was so gross, but it was so awesome at the same time. You know, that's exactly what us horror fans want in our horror movies. You know, we don't want this Blumhouse bullshit where people get stabbed off screen and they go, ah, and there's a little squirt of blood, and that's it. Like, that just sucks. You like little squirtles of blood, Safi? Just like a little...
Well, it's just, it's, it already, you're doing a movie, and you're watching a movie. And so, if you see something like that, it seems kind of disingenuous. It seems like, oh, yeah, okay. And I think it takes away the scariness out of it, because you're just like, that's it.
They made sure, too, to have, like, shots of blood squirting and dripping out and going all over. Like, they didn't just show the kills. They'd then cut to, like, blood dripping into something and mixing with something else. And I really liked the violence in this movie. It was perfect. This is exactly what horror movies should have in them, not what they have today. Like what will be in Halloween Ends.
Oh, God.
Excited for that, Safi?
I've seen a lot of advertising in different places
in a couple
for
of
it.
days.
They're really trying to push it.
Be suffering with that. So, anyways, the movie is mostly, as I said, it's like Friday the 13th. One of the sadder things is that, Renee Estevez is in the film, and of course she is the final girl from Sleepaway Camp 2, and I was expecting her to survive, or I was expecting for her to come back, because she was trying to leave. She wanted to go to her boyfriend, Pooh, and drink beeries with him or something. Like, he's like, I got some beer. And she's like, what kind? And he's like, it's a surprise. And it's like, Safi, what do you think of that? Isn't that
just, nah.
kind of
silly?
Silly. Really? Safi, would you like to have a beer with Renee Estevez?
No.
Okay. And so she wants to go home, and I thought maybe she'll go home to her boyfriend, and then later on in the movie she'll come back to help and she'll get killed then. But no, she gets killed right when she wants to leave. She's the first kill. I thought that was pretty surprising. And so, did you guys hear what Safi just said? She said, I'm trying to wake myself up.
Well, I was up all during the night and because getting ready to move, and
I'm trying to wake myself up.
it really doesn't work.
Safi, I'm trying to wake myself up.
Plus, I watched part of the movie last night, too, during the night. And
Which
then
is
I watched the rest this morning.
It's a great idea since the whole movie takes place at night. And
yeah, it was nice. And you could actually see it.
yeah.
I have a lot of trouble in the day watching some of these movies or TV shows we watch because it's so dark, it's hard to see. Especially like with X-Files, the last season of X-Files, there were a lot of dark scenes, and I couldn't see anything. It was just like all black, but it wasn't. It's just because it was light out, and that causes it harder, makes it harder to watch. So, and I watch it on my phone. So, back to the movie.
What's really cool in this movie, too, speaking of the cast, is that there's a lot of Sam Raimi regulars in the movie, including Sam Raimi and his brother. And I recognize both of them. And it was funny seeing them get killed and unfortunate. And they had a lot of laughs with that. Like with the guy, like he threw a chopped off hand in the tank with the lobster, the live lobsters. And then he put like clearance sale stickers on a dead body. And then the funniest one was the body that was going up and down the roller, the conveyor belt thing. Because it came down and she's like, ooh, and then it starts going back up and she's like, ooh. She cries a lot. Safi?
I don't remember her crying a lot.
She cries a lot near the end.
Oh, yeah.
She goes, but it's fun. She was like a standout actor from the film, in my opinion. I mean, I thought, but Safi, what price would you put on her? Like, if she was at the grocery store, what price would you say in comparison to, like, other final girls? Like, let's say that, well, let's say that Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street, let's say that she's like Haagen-Dazs, and she's worth like $10 a pint. Well, how many dollars would this final girl be worth? How much do you think? How much would you charge? Charge someone. Charge the audience. How much does the audience have to pay to get the final girl from Intruder?
I don't know.
Why not?
I guess $5 is coming to mind.
So you give her 5 out of 10?
Oh, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, that's pretty weird. And another...
I don't want to do that.
Well, you can't escape it, Safi.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't. You just did it. And another weird thing about this movie is that it's called Intruder. I think the title really doesn't fit the film at all. You know, there is an intruder, I guess, but that's actually the boyfriend. Mm-hmm. The bad guy of the movie, he already worked at the store, so, you know, not really an intruder of sorts.
I was thinking, well, never mind.
You were thinking what?
Oh, never mind.
You're falling asleep,
yeah,
so you're like
I'm coming up with
sleepy Safi.
Weird stuff.
You know, Safi, why don't you just go to sleep since you're just a checkout?
No, I'm thinking about the movie too.
Okay. And another thing to mention about the movie is that the music is a lot like Friday the 13th, and as I was saying with the ending,
it's pretty good music.
They show the bad guy. Now let's talk about the bad guy. The bad guy is a trick. You know, he's not who you think he would be at first.
He's a red herring.
He's like this older guy, and he has a mustache, and he has a really goofy voice, like a country type of voice, and you know he could be pretty creepy a little bit, but not really. He reminds me a lot of like Looney Tunes, just like with the people from the last movie. And Safi, now you look like the clapping monkey with the cymbals. You're trying to stay awake. Is that what you're trying to do?
Kind of, but I'm still listening to what you're saying. I'm just thinking about the movie, too.
Well, he pretends to save the main girl from the boyfriend, and then he's like, I'm gonna call for help! That's what he sounds like. He's like, I'm gonna call for help! And then she looks at her hands, and there's blood, and then she sees there's the cut on his hand where she had actually hooked him with a meat hook. And I thought that was nice. That was a good little reveal, but it was very much like Friday the 13th, where the bad guy saves the main person, then you realize, oh, they're the bad guy. And then this long chase ensues. And the thing is that I was not surprised about who this bad guy was, because earlier on in the movie...
Did you, well, never mind.
Did I what?
So when did you know who the bad guy was?
As soon as, well, that's what I was going to talk about.
Okay.
He goes outside because he's mad that the store is being sold and torn down for no reason. And he goes outside and he sees the boyfriend there, and the boyfriend starts attacking him, and then they cut it off, and they don't show how that concludes. And that's immediately when I knew, oh, that guy is the bad guy, because the boyfriend is like the fake out villain. Mm-hmm. And so the bad guy will probably be that mustache guy, because they did not show the conclusion to that fight. You know, This is a slasher movie. If he had killed the mustache man, they would have showed the mustache man with his head chopped off or something. You know, like they would not just leave it open to theories like with fucking Mr. Lynch. David Lynch. That's what he would do, you know. He'd be like, we don't have to show that because the audience can just come up with the story themselves. And by Lynch, we're talking about post-90s Lynch, not Blue Velvet David Lynch, because that's back when he wrote full stories with beginnings, middles, and ends. Now he just writes beginnings and kind of a middle, and not really anything else. So that's immediately when I knew that guy would be the killer. I would say that, you know, he was a little too goofy, but he fit in with the movie, because the movie did have like a half goofy, half serious vibe, it wouldn't have been as good if it was just completely serious the whole time. That would have been kind of, yeah. Because it is kind of ridiculous. Like, he goes on a killing spree because he's mad that he got screwed out of, keeping the store. And it is a little much. I mean, it took a lot of effort. It took a lot of work to do what he did that night, Safi.
I guess so.
Going around dragging full people around, putting them in machines,
shredding them,
doing all this stuff. Like, he put a lot of work into this killing spree. It wasn't like, one of these modern ones who just walks in somewhere and goes, it was very calculated and sneaky and sinister, like Jason Voorhees. So the movie ends with what, Safi? The boyfriend actually comes to her rescue, the creepy boyfriend, and they help each other out to kill the bad guy. And then the cops get there, and the cops, they were useless the entire film. They were very, very exaggerated to be just complete nimrods. But they show up, and they immediately think that these two are the bad guys. And part of the reason is one of the stupidest things in the film, because part of the reason is that the guy who liked the girl, not the boyfriend, the guy who liked the girl, he asked for another worker at the store to give him an X-Acto knife. And instead of the worker, it was the killer. And he gave him the X-Acto knife open. So it cut a little bit of his hand. There was blood all over the X-Acto knife. And so since the final girl had the X-Acto knife in her pocket, and the boyfriend had something else that had blood on it from someone else, the police would automatically assume they're the killers. It's really, really weird. But I did like how, the killer, he was still not dead. Because they had the thing where she kills him, and then he comes back for one last scare. Like Wes Craven says in Scream. And that was pretty funny. But after that, he's still alive. He's still not dead after the boyfriend practically, makes mincemeat out of him with the cleaver.
Oh.
Which was pretty cool as well. He says, they killed everyone. And then he dies. And I thought that was queer because as soon as they do any type of investigating, they'll find out that it was not them.
I didn't like that.
Unless they really are retarded.
But I think that they would arrest them.
They
had blood on, at first, because they did have blood on them. They were both there. Yeah, that was part that was a little disturbing. I think even more disturbing than the kills, that just because they were there, they got arrested. And that really is true.
That happens, but
happens.
It just felt over the top. The cops were over the top the rest of the movie. Very, very exaggerated and what address are you at, madam?
They were so one-dimensional.
10-4.
I recognized one of them.
Did you get the Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah.
That's what they're...
It's terrible because they really were like that.
There are cops like that, though. I mean, to be fair. Safi.
I don't know. If I ever see any that are different, they're usually mean and a jerk.
Yeah.
That's the only... the rest of the time, they're fine. But when they get in a mood or something and they don't want to take the time to adjust to the situation or adapt to the situation, or they get crabby and disagreeable.
Yeah, in fact, it was surprising that they didn't kill the boyfriend, because we all know that nowadays in 2022, they'd have it be where the cops show up and then they kill both of them or something. You know.
I was wondering myself, and I don't know. I kind of think if they, well, I don't know. If it was somebody who was of color, they might, and they were like.
You mean a black person, Safi?
Or Hispanic.
Every person is of color, Safi.
Well, of a dark color. How about that?
But, no.
Well,
No.
I don't know. It just, you just don't, but it's still, the ending was, I didn't like that. The rest of it was pretty good and scary, and also there were a few flaws about it. Like I said, the way she called it was like she was, I don't know, just kind of calling and asking about a prescription at the drugstore, or, you know, I mean, something really mundane.
Yeah, she's supposed to call the cops anyway to tell them about this boyfriend going around trying to get at her. And so she really didn't act like it was that urgent.
Not at all.
Not at all. Well, what would you rate the movie in terms of food, Safi?
Oh, boy.
Some blood and lobster?
I know. Oh, boy.
I'll do mine first.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Since you're like...
I have something in mind, but I
You're like...
don't know if I like it or not.
I'm not going to give it Dunkin' Donuts. Well, I really think that this movie is a ton of fun. And it's just a fun horror movie. It is totally a horror movie. It's totally an 80s style movie. And if you like those things, then you'll have a lot of fun. And it also is a nice little time capsule because it does make you feel like you're working at that store in the 80s at first, which is a lot of fun.
And they did chores that you would do at a store, and God, there's a lot. I mean, they went into detail a little bit.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of chores. They had a
like
lot
the chopping,
of responsibilities.
All that chopping with the...
Well, also putting the stickers on everything, the prices,
yeah,
changing the prices.
They had to change all the prices in the whole store.
They talked about it, too.
And clean up the mess that they made with the boyfriend. Which, that was pretty funny because... Ew! That was pretty funny because it took like 6 people to fight the boyfriend.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, was that I knew that then that was another hint at, why he probably wasn't the killer. Because if he really was attacking that guy with the mustache, then he would have killed him, and they would have showed it. So I would say this movie is a lot like you get a nice, big, greasy cheeseburger with bacon, pineapple slices, ketchup, mustard, piccalilli. Like, you just put everything on it possible. And then you have a big, giant bowl of fries with ketchup, and you have a shake. Like, that's what this movie is. It's an all-American meal. It's a great big feast for an American boy or American girl, and or an American it, and, like, Angela from Sleepaway Camp. And, right, Safi? And, that's what this movie is. It's just a fun, good time. Safi, what would you rate this movie in terms of food before you, fall asleep again?
I know, I'd like to take a nap. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
You know who else would like to take a nap?
I knew this was going to be a problem, and that's why I was hoping somebody else could go with you to take this stuff, and somebody else has a headache.
Oh.
Is in bed.
Safi, give your food rating.
No, I had something in mind, and now I'm...
Would you forget it?
Well, I think it would be like just, probably, God, I don't know, maybe a really good bowl of cereal
really
with one of these Halloween cereals.
Like Blueberry?
Yeah, or
Frankenberry?
Count Chocula.
Count Chocula.
Count Chocula, but there's also the Blueberry maybe, and I think there's another one. It has multiple different colored pieces in it, and there were a pretty big cast of characters because they were all working at the store overnight. It seemed like.
And they all got fucked up.
Yeah, and they had a lot of chores, and they were doing them. And you realize how much some simple store is not so simple. That there are a lot of chores to be done.
Well, if the final girl in this movie, if the final girl was a cereal flavor, what flavor would she be?
Yeah, probably Captain Crunch.
Really? Do you like Captain Crunch?
I did. It's very sugary. They say it's one of the it's one of the sugariest cereals around.
Well, my favorite cereal was always what, Safi? Frosted Flakes. That and Oreo O's are also good, but that's like
it's Frosted Mini Wheats.
No, it's Frosted Flakes.
Oh.
Mini Wheats are the thick shell things.
Yeah, and they showed those too, the flakes, the corn flakes, Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
How would you rate Cap'n Crunch on a scale of 1 to 10?
Oh, for heaven's
How would you rate that cereal?
Well, the cereal, it's okay. It's
cereal.
Very sugary.
So how would you...
And I don't think she was like that either.
Oh, what is she then? What flavor is she?
She was just kind of she was naive, and she
Really?
was oblivious.
Well, what kind of cereal is naive and oblivious, Safi?
Captain Crunch.
Okay, so how would you rank
I don't
Cap'n
know, Marco.
Crunch? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you would give that girl a 5 as well. You just admitted that.
I suppose. Not really.
Okay.
I don't believe in that. But
Yeah, you do. You just did it.
no, cereal and people are two different things.
You said she's Cap'n Crunch and Cap'n Crunch is 5.
Whatever.
Good job, Safi.
It's it's kind of sweet, and it's funny because I've been taking this medication for a decade, and I didn't realize how much. I just dealt with it because if you have to take some kind of medication for anything, and your life depends on it, you just do what you have to do, and you have to bite the bullet if there's side effects. And one of the side effects of this medications was not being able to taste. And I didn't realize how much it affected it because lately, I can even taste my toothpaste.
Which meant that you couldn't taste the final girl in this movie.
Anybody.
Until now.
It's just, everything. I made corn. We had a chicken soup, and I made cornbread to go with it. And some people like very sweet cornbread, and they put, I'd say 2/3 of a cup, and like a cup's worth of, when you have a cup of flour and a cup of cornmeal, et cetera, but with that you have like 2/3 cup of sugar. Well, our family doesn't like that kind of cornbread. It's just, we don't care for it. And because I've made it before and everybody had a cow. And I didn't like it either. So we're just not that way. But I did put 1/3 of a cup because it is
Safi.
It's not a crappy anyway.
Safi.
That's what and I could taste the sugar in
Safi,
it.
you can taste your face, okay? So this movie, would you say it's the best full moon one so far?
Well, I like that Vampire
Journal.
movie. Yeah. I like the Good Vampire, and
oh, that's because you have a bias.
But I kind of like that. But this movie was, in terms of like a regular scary movie with a slasher, and it also had a red herring, which was they tried to make it the boyfriend. It was really somebody associated with the store, which that's even more of a red herring because they all together, they met, they would have to take a break together, and they all sat there talking and joking. They all seemed like a family.
Well, and that was another thing, was that the summary was misleading because the summary said that it's all about people in the store banding together to fight the bad guy.
That's what it says.
That's a complete false advertisement on the movie.
Now they're thinking they band together, and they all got killed. They were all in their separate part of the store doing their chore, and
they all get killed separately, one gets killed. Like, they did not band together in any way, shape, or form.
No, they couldn't.
Except to fight the boyfriend at the beginning.
Yeah, and he wasn't even the one, and you knew that he's a red herring.
So, Safi?
Oh, I know. I wanted to say one thing I didn't like at the end. Of course, I guess we talked about it a tiny bit, but I didn't like that they were instantly blamed for the crime.
We already talked about that.
I know, but I just didn't like that. I did not like that. That's the only thing that was negative, and it came at the end. It was like they just they shoved her face in all the blood that had been spilled in the store and said "F you."
I know that, Safi.
Like
we talked about that.
I know, but I just wanted to emphasize that I didn't care for that.
Well, they're trying to make it like a twist
Yeah,
ending.
but we're having too much of that kind of thing nowadays, and I don't like that.
It was like an R.L. Stine Goosebumps type of ending. So, Safi?
Okay, well, if you like this video, please give it, please give it a thumbs up, and become, my son is bugging me. And please subscribe. We enjoy having new subscribers to share commentary. And, like if somebody has seen one of the movies we've seen or shows, that sometimes it seems like we're one of the few people who see it. And so it's nice to hear about somebody else seeing it too, and what they think about it and how it compares with what we say. And we're not looking for people who are just going to agree with everything. We're just looking for, like, helpful discussion, because our intention is that when people have a job and they get paid to do these things, because, I mean, for the most of us who are watching these movies, we just watch. We're just viewers. And we like to see, we're going to take the time to watch it. We want to see something good. So if these people are getting paid to make something, they should do the best job that they can.
And tomorrow's movie will be Christine. That will have to do with Halloween Ends, which we'll explain more when we review Christine. I don't know what it has to. Okay.
Is this a Stephen King movie?
Yeah, we'll watch it, Safi. So
is this the car movie?
Yes, Safi.
Oh God.
So.
Okay, bye everybody.